Hey everybody, welcome to the True Crime Squad. I'm Kristi Brower, here with my sister, co-host, and partner in crime, Katie Weaver. Hey Katie.
Hello, and
How
very late. I apologize. This was entirely my fault. And the worst part is the reason I'm late is because we ran out for Dutch. But there's been a big, stupid traffic situation going on by my house all summer, and
Oh yeah.
well, it was real bad today. So,
Dang it.
sorry about that.
Yeah. Still echoing? I just don't know how we're echoing. This makes no sense to me
I
at
know.
all. We I I I don't even know what to say.
I know. Okay. Well, sometimes we start echoey and get better, so maybe that will be the
What
case.
if I just put myself on my webcam for now? How's that?
I mean, I can hear you fine. You sound a little tinny, but it's not terrible.
Okay.
At least on my end.
I'll try that for now.
Okay.
I don't know what else to say. But I do know what I want to show you because I have a really fun little show and tell, something new. I sound like a Vegas DJ. How can that be? I have this to show you, something new for Fidget Whimsy. This is a little mouse in her very
Oh,
own teacup.
she's so cute.
Isn't she cute? She's
That's
going up on
adorable.
She's going up on Fidget Whimsy, stuff like this. Great for your desk or a friend's or teacher gift for a desk, so cute and fun. There's actually an entire tea set. I am printing one of those in case somebody wants it. It also comes with a tray and a teapot. So
That is
cute.
adorable.
The cat is blending in with my hair. Yes, she tends to do that. She gets up here and then people think I've got some kind of weird side ponytail and it's actually just my cat.
She's good
Yeah,
for that.
she is good for that. Well, we have a lot going on because we have a lot of cases in court this week.
Mm-hmm.
So we just kind of want to do a wrap up of everything we know as so far in the trials that have started this week. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start with Leilani Simon. If you remember, Leilani Simon is on trial for the murder of her little boy, Quentin Simon.
Yeah.
He was reported missing on October 5th, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
This is the little guy that they spent weeks looking for in a landfill. This happened in Georgia, Savannah, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And they did finally find his body. He had been dismembered.
Yeah.
And they found his body in a landfill.
Yeah.
So this trial began yesterday. And I think I will start with this is not all of the prosecutor's opener was an hour and a half long. It was quite a lot. I broke it down to a couple of parts that I think are really important. So I'm going to start there, and then we'll see then I'll kind of explain what else they're presenting, and then I'll show you the defense opener as well. But
Yeah. Okay.
let's watch the prosecution opener.
Is Quentin Simon at about a year and a half old, a little bit over that, 20 months. Like all children, he was blameless, he was innocent, and he was beautiful. And like all children, he was totally defenseless, totally and completely dependent on the adults in his life to take care of him and to look out for his safety. And the evidence in this case will show that the defendant violated that trust, that most basic, sacred trust of a parent, in the most horrible way. In the middle of the night, she killed him, her own son, got in her car with his body, drove to a dumpster, and threw him away like a piece of trash. She would go home, go to sleep like everything was normal, and wake up the next morning and report it to the police as an abduction. I woke up, my front door was open, and my child was missing. Now the story started to fall apart pretty quickly because of good, solid police work. But she would go on to tell a series of evolving lies over several weeks, only moving from one lie to the next as the police picked apart the first lie and presented her with the evidence that made the first lie untenable. So now it's time to move on to lie number 2, and 3, and 4. And as they're doing this with her, they're also searching for his body, which they ultimately discover about 6 weeks after his disappearance in a local landfill, in pieces, unfortunately. And as a result of all of that police work and investigative efforts, which I think you'll be quite proud of when you hear about them in detail, the defendant is charged with his murder. So that's sort of the 50,000-foot view, the bluff, the bottom line up front for the military folks here. She'd had kind of a tumultuous relationship with Mr. Moss, that they had split before she even knew she was pregnant with Quentin, and that he initially didn't even believe that she was pregnant when she told him, and that he was never part of Quentin's life at all. And I expect you'll hear some testimony about the way that that background influenced the way that she treated Quentin. But you're supposed to love all your kids equally. You're supposed to treat them all the same. I expect you'll hear some testimony that that didn't happen. That she treated Quentin differently, and not in a good way. Unloved, undesired, ignored. And I'll show you a couple of text messages taken from her phone by the investigators that show this. Now this is kind of small on here, it's kind of bright, so I'll read it for you for those of you who can't see. Some of you may be able to read it, perhaps not all of you can. This is July of 2022. I want to feel beautiful, not barely average. I want to feel loved and not just liked. I want to feel wanted, not just tolerated. I want to be able to look at you and know it's just me, not wonder how many others there are. I want to feel like my body is worth showing off, not like it's just been trashed from having 3 kids. I want to feel the way you made me feel in the beginning, like I'm treasured and safe, not like I'm just here because you really don't have a choice. And you'll see quite a number of messages like this. It's basically an unbroken string of text messages all the way up to the day that she kills Quentin. August 6th, yeah, go get yourself some ass. I know mine is not good enough. Never was, never will be. September 10th, you're the reason I'm angry every day. You're the reason I'm depressed, why I feel the way I do about myself. Only be described as a digital suicide note. All right, she's in the car, and you'll hear her at the end say, I've got to go, I made it to the river. She's in her car, evidently contemplating driving her car into a river and ending her life. And she starts out saying goodbye to her children. She has some kind words to say about Zane. She has some kind, loving words to say about Sky. You might perceive that she momentarily kind of seems to be at a loss for what exactly to say about Quentin, our victim, the middle child. And then she goes on to explain that the message is clearly addressed to Danny. She goes on to attribute what she's about to do to the way that Danny has treated her. Now, this is a 4-minute some video. It's a little long for an opening statement, but we're going to watch the whole thing. And we're going to watch the whole thing because it's an important window into her state of mind at this stage in time. This video was filmed in August of 2022, but the evidence in terms of the text messages and her statements will show that nothing really changed between when this video was filmed and October 4th of 2022. So with that preview, I'll play this for you now.
To Sky, Zane, and Quinn. Mama tried. And Mama's not here no more because she doesn't love you. I do. I can't love myself. If I can't love myself, how can I love y'all? I have tried over and over and over and I failed. I screamed for help and I don't get it. Sky, you are such a beautiful little girl. I wish I could watch you grow up. I wish I could hold you for your first heartbreak because my mama didn't. Sky, I love you, baby girl. And Zane, you were so handsome, so sweet, so protective. You were gonna be such a good man one day. Just a good man. I hope you grow up and you learn what loyalty is. And you learn how to treat a woman and how to love a woman. And Quentin, baby. You are a middle child. You're so happy all the time. You smile all the time. I wish I could see what kind of man you would be too. And Danny, I loved you. I loved you with all of me, all of my heart. I loved you. I worshiped the ground you walked on. When we found each other. All right, thank you.
Whew.
Okay, so that was pretty intense.
Yeah, that's hard to watch. Holy cow.
I think one thing that we know about Leilani Simon is that she's very unstable.
Very unwell.
Emotionally.
Yeah.
The thing is, every time she talks to the police, she changes her story.
Yep.
Her original story is that she was home in bed all night, that she last looked in on Quentin at midnight, and when she woke up at 9 o'clock the next morning, her front door was open and Quentin was missing. So it was trying to be sort of a stranger abduction.
Mm-hmm.
Then she tells them, oh, she did go somewhere, because they start, looking to see if her vehicle's out there. Well, yeah, it was. On the day, on this day, which is, the day before Quentin is reported missing, she had her wisdom teeth out. And she says she got up about 1 o'clock in the morning in a lot of pain and went to a convenience store nearby to meet up with a friend who had some Oragel to give her. So they find, they're doing a search for her license plate because they have the license plate scanners in Savannah where she lives.
Mm-hmm.
And they're finding that she drove past that gas station, but she didn't stop to go in. So that isn't true. And that they found her vehicle in several locations that night, driving around. At one point, she says that the father of Quentin had threatened her on Facebook and told her she was a terrible mother and that he was going to take Quentin away from her and all this stuff. Facebook messages do not exist. They're not there. Quentin's father has never had any involvement with him and apparently never sought it out. So she just keeps changing her story, keeps sort of implicating somebody else here and there, and she has these huge crying fits in these interrogations where it takes them a long time to settle her down so that she can talk again. And
Yeah.
the really hard part about the interrogations is that they are terrible quality, and it is really difficult to understand what is being said in those videos. They showed some of them in the opening statement, and then I watched a bunch more of them today in today's testimony, and you can, even with the captions on, it's very hard to tell what she's talking about. But then she kind of implicates Danny, the boyfriend, and she's just implicating different people every time. The story changes and changes and changes. So that's a big part of what the prosecution is saying, is that she can't tell the truth to save her life.
Mm-hmm.
And they have these records of where her vehicle has been, which give them a pretty good idea of where to look for Quentin.
Right.
They don't have any actual solid evidence that proves that she murdered him. There is no forensic evidence proving that she physically did the deed. But it's pretty tough to believe that anyone else did, because she was the one out there driving around that night when the baby went missing. And then she lied and lied and lied and lied and lied to the police. So that's basically what they're putting out there, what the prosecutor's putting out there. Now, the defense's statement went for about an hour and a half. The prosecution. The defense opener is about 3 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, so let's watch that.
Turn to the defense. Does the defense wish to make an opening statement?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't intend to speak nearly as long as Mr. Dean did. Because frankly, this whole case is about rumor, gossip, speculation and innuendo, and ultimately, the state's bold conclusions about what they say happened but can't prove. Unquestionably, this is an emotional case. I know that. I have 5 children, 4 grandchildren. So I understand how emotional this can be. But this case can't be decided based on emotions. It has to be decided on facts and evidence presented in this courtroom. It can't be determined by emotions or their rumors and their gossip and their conclusions. And in the end, what you will determine is that's exactly the foundation of the state's claims. Bunch of conclusions, bunch of declarations, unsupported by actual evidence. These declarations about she did this at 1 o'clock, she killed Quentin. She drove here, and then all of that are their conclusions, what they have decided the evidence shows. But what is important in a trial is this witness stand, where witnesses testify and evidence is presented. It's not what some lawyer says. It's not what the state declares the evidence to be, and that includes this discussion about the statements. Mr. Dean has his ideas of what those statements represent, but that's your job. And it's not to simply rely on the state's conclusions about what they mean. The state has a conclusion. The core conclusion is that Leilani Marie Simon murdered her child. The evidence will simply not support that bold conclusion. That is why, after we've heard all the evidence and all the argument, the evidence will lead you to one place, and that is a finding with respect to murder and concealing the death of another of not guilty. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, so he has some valid points. What they have is a lot of information that is an indication of what she did. They don't actually have a lot of forensic evidence of what they think she did. Just to clarify, the video of her crying and referring to her children in the past tense, that appeared to be a suicide note, basically. She was driving down by the river. There was some indication that she was going to drive into it. That was filmed in August on her phone. She obviously did not do it, and it was found by the police after the fact. I don't know if anyone else had seen it before the police found it on her phone or not. But referring to her children in the past tense, she was referring to them that way because she was going to be gone. So the prosecution is expressing that, sharing that as part of her state of mind. That this was August. He went missing in October. She said a lot of things that indicated that she didn't really love Quentin and that she couldn't love him and that she didn't know why in that video. And there's some other indications that she did not treat Quentin the same way as his siblings, which is really concerning for this poor little kid. Gran said he looks like he has fetal alcohol syndrome, and so does she. Yeah, I agree. I think they do look like they have fetal alcohol syndrome. It is an extremely dysfunctional family situation. Things are pretty abusive and have been for her. You got to remember also, this chick was 23 years old when her baby went missing.
Yeah.
She's young and has 3 children.
Yeah.
So, what we've seen so far is just a lot of police providing evidence, most of which is that they went looking for him as though he were a missing child at first, because that's the way that it was reported. And they found absolutely nothing. They didn't find him. They didn't find any indication that anyone else had been present to take him. There was nothing that indicated that this was an abduction. And that's when they really started turning and looking to Mom.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, this is only day 2. So that's just what they've presented so far. One thing that did happen today that I found very interesting, I really like this judge. She's great. And every once in a while she stops and has everyone stand up and move around and stuff. But it's because they're having a problem with a juror who falls asleep. And this morning before their lunch break, a juror had fallen asleep. And so they took a break and sent the jury out and had a conversation about what they were going to do about that. They also then had some conversations about that they have been mentioning the names of the other children with their full names in some places, and they are minors, and talking about how maybe that should not be the case.
Yeah.
So they dealt with that a little bit, and also that they were going to finish. They had 3 minutes left of the video, and then they were going to take a break. And I think they were probably going to have a more direct conversation with said juror about staying awake. One of the problems, which I can completely understand because I was watching it, is that all of this interrogation video is impossible to understand. It would be better if they had a transcript for them to read.
Yeah.
Because it is really tough. Especially the first 2 interrogation videos are just recorded on the detective's phone. because they split everybody up in the family to interview them separately. And the room that they had Leilani in was a room that they don't usually do interrogations in. It's their lactation room for people who are breastfeeding to go into to use while they're there, whether they're employees or whoever. And so she just turns video on her phone and lays it so that it just points at the ceiling. And it's terrible audio.
Yeah.
It's not set up to pick it up. And then watching it is even worse because it's video of video, and the original video is shitty. But I think that probably has something to do with it. I don't know. Can they replace the juror? I guess maybe, if it continues to happen. You know, the judge was pretty concerned about it. The attorneys did not seem to be particularly concerned about it at all, honestly. She kind of kept having to bring them back to it, like, I need you to tell me what you think about how we should handle this. And neither one of them were making much of a big deal, so I don't know. But yeah, as a juror,
Yikes.
it was, I imagine, horrible to listen to. I don't understand why they didn't have transcripts so that they could be reading along, following. Because you should have seen the insane things that my closed captions were saying. You know, it was terrible, like we've seen in other cases where they can't pick anything up. Right, Jennifer, why didn't they wait till there was a room to be free? Well, because at this point, they still think that Quentin might be missing, that he may have been kidnapped. So they're just trying to get through as quickly as they can. You know, also, is the room too hot? Do they need to turn the air conditioning on or turn it up higher or something? Maybe they do. I don't know. So, in Ireland, yeah, we have to write everything as well as recording it. Yeah, and here too. I mean, everything's got a transcript. Also, there's somebody in the room that has a translator. There is a woman sitting at the stand that has this thing that she puts over her mouth and she speaks. And then there's somebody else that's listening with headphones on. So I don't know if it's translation or if they're hard of hearing. And this is their way of dealing with it. I'm not sure which it is, but it's very interesting. Like, this was some interesting things in the case. Right. Abduction from a stranger is highly unlikely, but that was the original story. And so that's where they started with their investigation. It became quickly apparent to them that Leilani could not tell them the truth for 5 minutes. So today was just more testimony, you know, and more interrogation videos. So we'll see if they can wrap it up with enough for the jurors to see this as not only is it the assumption that she killed Quentin and dumped him in a landfill, but that they actually have evidence that she did that. Because honestly, there's not much.
No, there's not.
And she has said nothing about her doing it. Said she has verbal diarrhea. She's one of those people that once she starts talking, she cannot stop. And so she just goes on and on and on and gives way too much information and contradicts herself. But she has not copped to anything that you would consider to be a confession. Yeah. Oh, Deanna says, I could never be a juror because I have terrible auditory problems. I can hear just fine, but my brain is running on 2G, so I don't know what the hell is being said, reading lips and watching people's mouths. Oh, okay. Sometimes there's technology that can help with that, and sometimes it just makes you not a good candidate.
Yeah.
Lion says, I would also fall asleep, especially before I used ADHD meds. My brain just randomly starts drifting to sleep, even if I find things really interesting. Better with ADHD meds, though. That's good. I would imagine it was just really friggin' hard to listen to because the recording was so poor.
I would have daydreamed 17 daydreams by the time the first of that was over.
Right?
But unfortunately, the jurors are just other people. I mean, they probably are feeling the exact same way.
I would imagine so. I would definitely imagine so. So not a lot has happened yet that I would call like, you know, there it is. There's the mic drop moment. There hasn't really been one yet. That video of her in her car is something else. It really is. But
Oh yeah, it is. That's
is it
whew,
actually related to what happened to Quentin?
right.
Not really, other
No.
than to say that this is a very emotionally unstable young woman.
Yeah. Yeah, and that stuff about not loving Quentin, not being able to love him. I mean, that is really weird and concerning, but it
It
doesn't
is.
mean she killed him. But do you remember when he
Yeah,
was missing, how combative she was? She
yes,
was she was a straight up asshole when he was missing.
she was.
And they had people combing the landfill, which is a huge undertaking.
It
A hu-
literally took weeks to find his body.
It's a huge, just almost impossible undertaking. People
It
looked and,
is.
the law enforcement looked and looked and looked. And this girl's just fighting for her life on the internet, acting like such a bitch. It was, oh, we started
Yeah,
covering this case when he went missing,
we
and
did.
it looked real bad from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. Doesn't that occasionally happen with postpartum depression that people have a hard time loving their baby? Yes,
Hmm.
that can happen. The baby was 20 months old though, so he wasn't an infant. But that is certainly something that could happen.
Yeah.
The prosecution is implying that it has to do with the fact that his father wouldn't have anything to do with him.
Hmm.
And I agree, Gran. She during the videos, she is all over the place. Like she's high, maybe she's on meth or something because she cannot stop this kind of stuff. She was extremely dramatic, very over the top.
Hmm.
Um, None of it looks good for her at all. It's just the
Do they really
forensics
have the
aren't really
evidence to
there.
prove it?
I
Yeah.
know that it is a concern,
Mm.
but maybe they've got more than we know about, and they're going to pull more together.
Hmm.
Right, and she's had another baby since Quentin. It's very
Yeah.
weird to keep referring to Quentin as the middle child, but
Right.
that is in fact true now.
Hmm. Yeah.
She just having way too many babies way too fast,
Hmm.
young, unstable, really not in a place to be managing her life
No, and
at
her
all.
mom too. Who
Oh boy, yeah,
a lot of issues there as well.
huge ones.
Yikes.
So
Hmm.
we'll keep following. I'll keep watching the trial and updating you on what's happening
Okay.
in this trial. We're not streaming it because we're getting ready as soon as possible to stream Sarah Boone. So Katie, what's
Well, not
happening
so
with Sarah
fast.
Boone? Oh boy.
Boone is not going to start in earnest until Friday,
Ah, okay.
is at least what we're being told right now. So I'm going to start at the beginning with Boone too. We decided we'll update all three of these cases and we'll lay a few bones, just some reminders of what these cases are and how they began so that
Yeah.
everybody's clear. Because, sometimes here in True Crime Squad, we forget that not everyone has been with us, forever. So there might be
Right.
things you don't know. So this is Sarah Boone, and this is her victim and was also her love interest, Jorge Torres. And Sarah is accused of basically tricking Jorge into, or assuming, or suggesting, or whatnot. They played a game of drunken hide and seek, in which Jorge was zipped into a suitcase, and Sarah allowed him to die in that suitcase. This happened back in 2020. So when Sarah was arrested the next day, she woke up the next morning, supposedly, the first story I think was around 11, and had assumed he would have freed himself from the suitcase by then, and went downstairs and he was deceased in the suitcase. She called the police. When the police came, she, played it off as an accident, that this was just a terrible accident. She
Acted
was,
like a crazy person.
acted like her energy was very weird when the police came. Way too up, and way too high on life. But then the police take her phone and they discover videos on her phone that she made while he was in the suitcase, begging for his life, crying, begging her to let him out, that she couldn't breathe. And she was taunting him, laughing, saying, "That's how I felt when you choked me," things like that. And there had been a lot of domestic violence between them. These two were a terrible fit. There was a huge drinking issue in this home. It was awful. But at any rate, subsequently, she was arrested and charged with murder, too. And then, of course, as you know, over the last 4 years, Sarah has been through, I think, 9 attorneys, with the initial one she hired, and then 8 public defenders. Then she was pro se for a little while. That was going so poorly that some attorney in Florida took pity on her and joined her case. And then 2 others did as well. So she actually has a team of 3 now that are sitting on her case. And so her trial is getting ready to start. We have been in jury selection for the last 2 days. They are telling the jurors to plan on about 3 weeks. Let me get back to some of my notes here.
Because that's longer than what they initially thought.
The defense indicated that they're filing something else tonight, another motion. Judge says they're going to start again at 9:30 a.m. for motions. One of the concerns... No, tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow. Oh, motions tomorrow. I got you.
Yeah. And if I have something wrong, someone please feel free. I have all of Sarah's stuff and all of Delphi's stuff in my head right now. So, and they're kind of on a similar track. So one interesting thing, the defense is saying that there's some logistical issues. Sarah is awakened at 2 a.m. to be moved into a holding cell, and then doesn't get back to the jail at night until 9:30 p.m. So she's concerned about when she'll be able to shower, because by that time the showers are closed. So they did open the shower for her last night. So it sounds like the jail is trying to make some concessions to make sure she's able to take care of herself. She's asking for commissary food, access to commissary food, including 2 bags of chips, a bag of candy or a Pop-Tart, and cookies to keep in court. And I believe 5 mints, I read somewhere. It's very specific.
Can't bring her food to eat?
I don't know.
They're not allowed to.
I don't know. Maybe they're not.
Because, yeah, it's a long day. I imagine they provide her lunch somehow, but...
Yeah.
5 minutes, huh? Well, but maybe it is that specific in the jail she's from.
Yeah. So they're ready to start voir dire. Tomorrow morning they're going to do some motions, and then in the afternoon the state will get their voir dire. They get 54. And then Thursday a.m. the defense will voir dire. So that's where they're at on seating the jury. And I had read that they're going to start in earnest on Friday. Jess said she read Thursday afternoon. So we'll keep an eye on that, because we are planning on streaming.
Depends on how long voir dire takes. I mean...
Yeah. Yep. So part of the problem now is that they cannot fit all of those jurors into the current courtroom. So tomorrow they have to move to a larger courtroom on the 23rd floor. So that's the 23rd floor. That cracks me up after going to so many hearings in Fremont County on the 2nd floor.
Of a building that is, in fact, only 2 floors. Bonneville County, also. The 23rd, wow.
Madison County, also 2 floors. Yeah.
Place. Yes.
Yeah.
There is not a building within 200 miles of us that is 23 stories high.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. So that is basically what's happening in Boone right now. I did want to share a couple of things, a little video, because Miss Sarah actually got to come to court today, not in her jail blues that we know she likes to stick staples and shit in.
Yeah.
She was, courtesy of Law and Crime, she's dressed in a gray suit with a seafoam green top, and also big girl shoes. She didn't even have to wear jail slides.
Oh. Well, we know she's been very concerned about her appearance at court. Which, I mean, frankly, I would be too. If I were on trial for murder, I wouldn't want to look like an inmate during trial.
Right, for sure not. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, her shirt does match her chair. That is kind of a weird...
Yeah, it does. Well, remember, all of her attorneys are men.
Yeah.
Who knows where these clothes came from?
Right.
But
Maybe they
that's
have a wife that shops for their clients or something.
people in the courtroom today said that she was very, very chatty with her attorneys and all smiles and just acting the way she has in court lately, like she's just having the time of her life.
Well, she's got all these attention. She's got these three men that have stepped
Yeah.
up to be her white knights, and
Yeah.
yeah, she's real big on loving the attention of this. She's a
Yeah.
little Lori Vallow in that way.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And yes, it sounds like the motions are supposed to be live streamed, so that'll be interesting to hear what the defense is
Yeah,
worried
what they're
about
gonna
now,
say.
or yeah, what's going on. So that's pretty much it with Boone, but let's talk about Delphi. So hold on to your hats. I was going to say hold on to your tits because that's what we say, but that seems like not appropriate, but now I've said it. So
I mean, everybody's got them, really. I mean,
hold
technically.
on. All right. Well, we'll start here. This is who is at the core of this case. And because this case has gotten so fucked up, I think times the victims in this case really, really fall by the wayside. And we've probably been
Oh,
guilty of
yeah.
it as well. This is Abigail Williams and Liberty German, or Abby and Libby as they were called, by their family and friends. On February 14th, 2017, the girls' bodies were found near the Monon High Bridge Trail, part of the Delphi Historic Trails in Delphi, Indiana. So the girls actually disappeared the day before. At 1:35 p.m. on February 13th, 2017, 13-year-old Abby and 14-year-old Libby were dropped off by Libby's older sister. They were going to hike the trail up in there. And they didn't show back up. And there was a manhunt for them. And unfortunately, the next day at about noon, their bodies were found. Initially, there was a real hush on the condition of the bodies, on what happened to them. The police were very, very quiet about it from the very, very beginning. It was confusing. There was a ton of speculation. This set that little town on fire. Like, people were very, very scared and upset for good reason.
Yeah.
One of the things that happened is that one of the girls had a short video, a snap video on her phone that seemed to show a man on the bridge telling the girls to come with them. And that is this person right here. At least they think. So from that, two different sketches emerged. The one in the beret was the first sketch, and then the one with the curly hair is the second sketch. These sketches were passed around for 5 years around Delphi and elsewhere as they were seeking the murderer. There, again, was a lot of speculation. There was a huge police effort. The FBI was involved briefly. I'm not going to go into all of the nuts and bolts because we'd be here all day, but there have been a lot of ups and downs, and mostly downs in this case. So the world was pretty shocked a couple of years ago when suddenly they had a press conference and announced that they had made an arrest. And the person they arrested is this man right here. This is Richard Allen. Richard Allen lived in the area. He was a pharmacy tech at Walgreens. He had no real priors. Like, this came as a huge surprise. He had a wife and a daughter. And he had been questioned briefly much earlier in the investigation because his phone had pinged that he was on the bridge that day, or in the area that day, as were many, many other people. So the arrest affidavit was underwhelming. And some of you were pretty upset with us in the beginning because we said, we're very confused. How is this evidence? How is this their guy? Because the arrest affidavit indicated that he was driving his PT Cruiser, that he had parked at a building that was CPS at the time, and then walked up into that area. and that they had found a bullet buried in the dirt in between the girls that was unspent, unshot, but that they had done a search at Richard Allen's home and discovered that he had a gun that matched the markings from this bullet, meaning that he had had that bullet in the chamber of his gun, removed it, and then taken it to this site and buried it between these two girls. That was their seemingly biggest piece of evidence. Then, of course, the jail said, we can't keep this man safe because everyone wants him dead and we don't want the responsibility of keeping him alive. And so the judge said, okay, well, we'll just put him in prison then. So he was stuffed in a supermax prison where he did very, very poorly. And his attorneys had a really hard time meeting with him. And were reporting that his mental health had degraded to the point that he was unresponsive to them. He was eating paper. He was talking nonsense. And this was about 8 months after he'd been arrested and placed in this situation. And then it was reported that he had been confessing over the phone to his wife. And his attorneys were like, well, yeah, but he's totally crazy in this jail. They had asked many, many times for the judge to move him. The first judge on the case recused himself pretty quick, and then they got stuck with who they have now, who is Judge Francis Gohl. So we'd heard that there were confessions. We'd also heard that he had potentially been being drugged in jail. We had heard through his attorneys from their Franks filings that there were a lot of potential lies that had been told by law enforcement, particularly to the judge to get the search warrant to search Richard Allen's home in the first place. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of problems. Then there was the leak of evidence from the defense attorneys, from someone in their office who took photos of the crime scene, which were photos of naked murdered teenagers. And that person shared those with another person who shared those with the Murder Sheet, who is a podcast who immediately went to the authorities with those, as they should have. One of the people involved in that took their own life. This resulted in Richard Allen's attorneys being thrown off of the case by the judge, which then resulted in them getting attorneys and making it clear to the Indiana Supreme Court to get reinstated because they were the attorneys of choice for Richard Allen, and they came on pro bono after that. There was a time then after that they needed money for experts that the judge was withholding, and they crowdfunded. And some of us, the True Crime Squad, and I know some of you guys as well, contributed to that fund because we've been very, very concerned about the lack of justice in this case. Partly for Richard Allen, because his constitutional rights have been violated 6 ways to Sunday, and most especially for Abby and Libby, because we have not believed that Richard Allen was guilty based on the evidence that has been shown. But we've said all along, an arrest affidavit isn't everything. There's more evidence that we haven't seen yet. But as things stand now, this looks bad. They did finally manage to get him moved out of prison and into a different prison. And then finally, just recently, here in the last 4 months, he was actually moved back to an actual jail. There are so many problems, appealable problems with this case, that the outcome of this trial might not mean much. It's a huge disservice to the families of these victims, and I can't imagine how it must feel for them this week to go into trial, reliving all of the last 5 years, all of the hell that these guys have been through. It's more than 5 years now, 7 years. Mm-hmm. It's unthinkable. And so we want to send all of our love and our support to these families because they have been through hell. And also to Kathy, Richard's wife, and his daughter, because they have been through hell. And in fact, Richard Allen's family has been receiving death threats all the while and received absolutely terrible treatment. That's the case in a nutshell. There's a lot more. Again, we'd be here all day if I tried to put it all together. But, so I won't. But I am going to move forward with what's going on now. So they started yesterday. They have a fully seated jury today. They are taking tomorrow for motions in limine. And then on Thursday, they are going to allow the state to argue. This is really something. The state filed today that they want to prohibit the admission or reference to the composite sketches. Yes, the state does not want the jury to see these.
Why? Because neither one of them look like Richard Allen?
Right?
Wow.
Now, apparently there are some laws about only specific ways that composite sketches can be used in court and not necessarily as evidence. But the defense should still be able to present those as things that the police were using to search for their perp, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me get back to my notes here real quick.
They ask for this shit because they will get it. This
Right.
judge gives them whatever the hell they want.
Whatever they want, yes. So here's what they're saying. They're saying the composite sketch is, 1, not relevant. 2, admission would result in undue prejudice, confuse or mislead the jury. 3, is impermissible hearsay. And 4, the witness who participated in the preparation of composite sketches will not be presented by the state for the purpose of in-court identification of the defendant. Yeah.
I mean, what?
Mm-hmm.
They disseminated those pictures for years when they were trying to solve this case.
Yeah.
That is utter bullshit.
It sure seems to be. But it's hard to say because Judge Gold has given them literally everything they want.
Mm-hmm.
Literally everything. So, basically, right now, we're waiting for these motions for them to start in earnest. But that's one of the big things that they're arguing now, is whether or not they'll be allowed to use that or not. It seems terribly unfair for them to not allow that to be disseminated to the jury. To say that it's not relevant is just bananas to me.
Yeah, it is.
But there is more. We learned yesterday that, and you guys, this absolutely blows my mind. We knew there was more evidence, but as it turns out, Abby had a strand of hair in her hand. And guess whose DNA it matches? Well, not Richard Allen. They apparently don't have a match for it. But she actually did have hair in her hand, and it wasn't Richard Allen's. What the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah.
We have some junk science with maybe the bullet came from his gun that wasn't actually ever shot and stuffed in the dirt right here.
And these girls weren't shot anyway, so...
We have confessions and the confessions. This is the other part that completely blew my mind. I did not know this until yesterday. I don't know if, I don't think this was public knowledge until yesterday. But in Richard Allen's confessions, he claimed that he raped the girls, shot them both in the back, and buried them in a shallow grave.
Yeah.
Guys, the girls were not sexually assaulted. They were slashed throats, and they were not buried.
Yeah.
None of the things he said in his confessions from the prison are even things that happened.
Right.
Yeah.
They're unusable.
Yeah.
All of this. Yeah, none of that was true. But the hair.
The hair.
That's evidence of someone else being present.
Mm-hmm.
That was not Richard Allen.
Yeah.
God.
Yes. So we're going to learn a lot more about the hair as this progresses, but that's what we know right now. This is complete nonsense. And yet, I still have no confidence at all that they're not going to convict him, because this area has been so bloodthirsty for justice on this case.
And
And
their
there
jury
have
selection
been,
was so fucking fast.
yeah, for the case of this magnitude, the jury selection was insanely fast. The jurors are going to be sequestered for the next month. So, sucks for them
The
a
jurors are
lot.
from Delphi. They've
They're
been
not.
inundated with this. Oh, they're not.
They're not. They are from, I
Oh.
believe, Allen County.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood
I thought they
that.
were from Delphi too. And then I read today that that's not actually true.
Okay.
So I believe they are from Allen County and they're going to be transported to Carroll County. That might not be completely correct, but it's something along those lines. Yeah. But they're going to be sequestered for a month. And also they're planning on this case taking about 4 weeks. So,
It's insane. It's insane that the judge, that they even were given, and that they had enough probable cause to even go to trial with this.
had they
don't
told the
have
truth to
anything.
the judge, they wouldn't have even gotten a search warrant to search his house.
Right.
Because that was based on a lie all in itself.
It's insanity.
Yeah. So that's a lot of what we know right now. It's pretty crazy. So they have 12 jurors seated and 4 alternates. So it's
Does not
10
seem like
women.
enough to me.
No,
for this
10 women
case.
and 6 men, I believe. Yeah. I believe it is a hotel sequester. Yeah, Jess.
Wow.
Well, the Supreme Court's been approached in this case twice. The first time they did allow the defense to return to the case. The second time they were trying to remove Judge Gohl and they were unsuccessful. Yeah.
Nobody gives a shit about his legal rights.
No.
Or even about, getting the right person
Yeah.
on trial for this murder.
Yeah.
Or persons. Because forever there were those 2 composites that are 2 different people. So, wow.
Yep.
Well, we've got a lot in these trials. We will be updating you all week.
Yep.
And as soon as Boone goes live, we'll go live with it, and we'll be streaming Boone. And of course, we would also stream Delphi if we could, but we can't. So, and I think Simon, I don't think it's going to take very long. I think this is going to be a pretty quick trial.
Yeah.
They don't have
Yeah.
that much. They've already gotten through like 4 law enforcement already. So I think it's going to be fairly quick. So we'll just keep you updated on all of them.
Yep.
We will be back tomorrow for case updates at 6 p.m. Mountain. And right after that is our monthly watch party. You can join that with us. You'll get the link for it if you become a member of our membership over on Buy Me a Coffee. Go to, truecrimesquad.com. It'll take you to Buy Me a Coffee. Join that there. We're going to be watching the new documentary called The Menendez Brothers.
Yep.
So, should be very interesting.
Absolutely. Yep.
But we'll leave you with all of that to think about. And it's a lot.
Yes.
It's really a lot. So,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here. You know it. We are the True Crime Squad.
Take care.